I've been keeping a secret from my members over on my strategy website, Gridiron Gameplans, since the beginning of the year, but I think now is the time to release this to the masses so that way you guys can get a better understanding of how the RPO bubble screen game works and how you guys can have the best short yardage screen game in the game. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad, and let's get after it. Of course, I will lead off by letting you guys know that I am in the Minnesota Vikings offensive playbook. This is home to the gun bunch tight end. Now, traditionally, this is very, very hard to stop from zone. You see right here, I'm in a cover 2. I can fairly easily throw this to the outside, get some blocks downfield, and steal yardage. This is really, really good when you guys are just needing to keep your opponent honest. It sets what I call a constraint for the defense. It's something that is very easy for you to do, and it is a little bit difficult for them to stop. You see here that if I'm in a traditional cover 3, even if I shade it down into hard flats, you'll oftentimes get really solid blocks. You're going to need a very physical slot corner if you're not going to worry about RPO defense. And you see right there that we were able to get a shed, but in general, you're not going to get great performance from just regular zone. You're just going to be able to throw this ball too easily out to there and pick up, 6, 7, 8 right there. That was 9 yards. And of course, when you start to put in better blockers, for me, I would actually probably prefer Brandon Marshall and Cooper Kupp due to their high block ratings on these types of plays, or even subbing a tight end. Shedding is not something you can overly rely on. So a lot of players will stop this RPO by doing a little trick. And that trick that I've taught here on the YouTube channel, so again, make sure you're subscribed, is to move your hard flat corner in, move your linebacker outside of that hard flat. And this will make it so the targeting on this screws up and the hard flat will pick this, and this will be a pick 6. But one of the big things that I don't tell a lot of people, at least publicly here on the YouTube channel, is how to counter that, okay? And this is going to take itself into so many different other versions of bubble screens, and that is using the untarget feature. The untarget feature is something that I've taught on Gridiron Gameplans, and it's one of the main reasons that the way I run the Minnesota playbook is so much harder to stop than your traditional online bubble screen meta. And that is that a lot of players will shy away from that counter I just showed you. Well, if you guys were to go in and actually utilize the untarget feature, if we take a look at the instant replay on this, you see that the reason that this trick works is because we're tricking this player into blocking the guy that we moved outside. Because he does this, the hard flat is now unblocked and stays underneath of the blockers, allowing us to pick this off to the crib. So what we need to do is we need to tell that blocker who to block. And the way that we do this is by saying, hey, Cooper Kupp, stop blocking this guy. Now, if you guys don't know how to bring up an untarget feature, all you're going to do is press and hold L1. You're going to hit Y or triangle if you're on PlayStation, and you're going to move the flame logo to this player. This is going to make it so that he is now untargeted. And when you run this bubble screen, you're going to notice that they crack down on that hard flat. And now you're able to get back to picking up positive yardage. If I have a better blocker than Devontae Adams, I probably bounce that outside and run for 30 or 40 yards. Okay, so now this presents a overall issue for the defense. They can't just go to the zone coverage and expect this to work. So a lot of players will then gravitate towards man-to-man. The problem with man-to-man is also that sometimes that player takes a bad angle. You see right here that man-to-man isn't a consistent issue as well. So what a lot of players will actually do is they will go to man-to-man instead of playing zone when you can actually counter the zone. But the problem is with man-to-man, it's very inconsistent. Some downs, you'll have the guy take a bad angle like you see right here, and I can throw this either way. And your opponent on defense is sitting there thinking, well, man, I matched that 3 guys against 3 guys. How did that not work? Well, again, it's just because man is super inconsistent, right? So, when you're playing man-to-man, also, sometimes when they're actually doing a good job at making a play, the other thing that you can do is still untarget this player, and that will change who they are blocking. And you see that with man-to-man, there's a lot of following the wide receiver. When we take a look at the replay here, when we're using the untarget feature, while we are untargeting the guy that is assigned to Cooper Kupp, keep in mind, this is man-to-man. This is not zone where we have what is called zone eyes on the quarterback. They basically play a technique on the receiver that they're assigned to guard. In this case, Cooper Kupp is going to run downfield. So he doesn't know that this is a blocking assignment. He thinks this could be a streak. This could be any type of route in the route tree. Well, what we're doing from Cooper Kupp's perspective, we're saying, don't block the guy in front of you, block the guy that is guarding Brandon Marshall. So what happens here is because the guy guarding Cooper Kupp is not the guy being blocked, he's just going to follow him as he goes and blocks the guy assigned to Brandon Marshall. And then what occurs is we're able to get the ball out into the flat and still run this successfully against man-to-man. For what it's worth, I will also use this against mid blitz, where I will untarget that player so Cooper Kupp goes and blocks the safety. And this is why I so often get one-play touchdowns with such a simple layup level throw. So what essentially this will do to this meta is we can't run man and we can't run zone. So we have to start playing a chess match with this. Now, I'm going to be breaking down the counter to this, so make sure that you guys stick around, but also make sure you guys open up a tab and head over to Gridiron Gameplans. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is something I've had out for my members on Gridiron since College Football 26 came out. I chose the Bowling Green offense. You guys can run this out of a variety of different playbooks. I'm going to show you guys overall how this works. This also translates to other screens in college football as well, so this is a universal tip for either game. You guys can also unlock well over 200 pieces of vault content on Gridiron, all offensive and defensive game plans, members only Discord access, live lab sessions weekly inside the Discord that are recorded and uploaded to the website for those that are unable to attend so they don't miss out on the content at no additional cost. So make sure you guys go check it out. It is the best deal in the tip space. Obviously behind this absolutely free YouTube channel, so make sure you guys are subscribed. So when we're talking about this meta, whether we're in man or zone, it's very, very easy to tell if somebody is countering you. The reason I say this is that if somebody does this, it's a pretty obvious tell that they're trying to get the targeting screwed up. So from a offensive perspective, if I snap the ball and I get this response, okay, we're good. This is going to get me free yardage to the outside. But from a defensive point of view, we're thinking, okay, my level 1 RPO defense is dead. I can't run this call. What is it that they are doing? Well, again, going back to the instant replay, they are leaving the guy that you slide out untargeted. So from a defensive point of view, what you need to do is actually change the assignment that this player is in only when Cooper Kupp is still blocking the guy that you want to stop the screen initially. So you see this one time, and this will alert you that when your opponent wants to run the bubble screen, they are blocking this guy, which means that this guy is unblocked. So this begins the cat and mouse game. So what we do the next time is, let's go back to that cover 3 defense. I'm going to slide this player in and I'm going to move my linebacker out wide. I'm going to say, okay, when I put this defense on the field, they are blocking the flat defender. So let's invert those setups. I'm going to put my flat defender in the hook, and I'm going to put my hook defender in the flat. This is now going to bait them into untargeting my flat defender. And now when I go to run this, guess what? We get a hit on this, possibly a pick 6, depending on the angle they take. Not a great angle there by Adrian Wilson, but you saw right there that we were playing into their hands. Now, of course, we can also extend this almost universally across the game. So I'm going to show you guys something here that I actually do when I want my opponent to think that they've stopped me in the bunch tight end screen, but I still want to run something else. So what I'll do is I will audible into a different formation that has a screen, but this one is much, much, much easier to stop from a meta standpoint. When you see a twin screen, you're sitting there thinking, okay, I mean, I don't have to respect screen here, because if I play a cover 3 with a hard flat, that's going to just pick off this throw. Obviously, we don't have anybody to block on that player. Well, that is unless you're using the untarget trick. So let's go back to that cover 3 hard flat real quick. What I'll do is I will say, all right, let's do a gotcha screen. I will audible into a twins look with an RPO, and then I will do this simple trick. So again, this guy's going to be lined up kind of out here in the slot. I will say, hey, you know, traditionally on a twin screen, the outside blocker blocks the guy in front of him. So unless this player is dropping into some sort of middle of the field zone, he's unaccounted for. So I need to change the block targeting of Davante Adams by saying, hey, don't block that guy. So we're going to use the untarget feature on him. So now what I do is I go ahead and I pull up my untarget. I slide the flame logo all the way over here and I choose that player. Now watch how Davante Adams plays. See how he cracks down on that hard flat? Now imagine your opponent's playing a hard flat defense with a slot defender or an outside linebacker in a 4th down and short situation. This makes this really easy to run an RPO because we are basically giving ourselves an opportunity, if the front is advantageous, to run on it, but also saying, hey, out here on the perimeter, we're telling the blocker which guy we want to block. This is a single high defense. The likelihood of this defender right here being a hard flat defender is very, very low. The likelihood of this player being a flat defender is very, very high. So we untarget the guy that's dropping back. So we'll crack on the guy who is playing the flat. Now we get this little blindside block, bang, we're throwing it out there, and we just stole a touchdown in the red zone, a 4th and short ice conversion to keep the drive moving. And it's very, very simple. We don't really have to do anything. We're not thinking too hard. We're giving ourselves multiple outlets. This could be a handoff to the running back or a throw to the flat. And just for what it's worth, this is also a very viable thing that you could do against mid blitz from a twin screen as well. So when we take a look here, I go to this RPO alert bubble. My opponent is in mid blitz. A lot of times they're going to come down here and tip their hand. I know this isn't zone. You could also do little subtle tell things like do a motion. You see the man slide on the safety. You could also maybe do a motion here and see that this guy follows and do a little motion back just to be sure that it's man to man. And then you say, all right, man to man, I don't want to block this guy, because remember, in man to man, the DBs are watching the receivers running their route. They don't have eyes on the quarterback to know it's a screen pass. So we say, don't block the guy that's guarding you. He's going to run inside with you and have no clue what's happening. We snap the ball, we get the crack block, and this is a touchdown level throw. You see right here that we're out there able to easily walk in for a touchdown. So this is a really, really awesome trick that you guys can use in a variety of different screens altogether. And it's a major weapon that you have to start utilizing. People think that stopping RPOs is hard enough. Now that this is going to hit the streets, it's going to be so much harder unless you stick around and watch this next part here. So once again, we're playing a cat and mouse game. Let's just kind of, again, break the huddle here and kind of talk about what's happening. The first time your opponent goes to this, obviously, you're going to see the last result where they are blocking down on the slot player out of this twin screen. The next time they present this, you guys are going to have to do one of two things to counter this. Let's go through the first thing, because I think this is going to be the one that is going to be best suited for you guys if you're playing a man-to-man defense. So let's say that we're in the mid blitz, we're committed to it. Maybe it's the best run defense for this type of RPO, but obviously we know our opponents have done this little crisscross where they're telling the outside guy to block down rather than block the guy in front of him. What we're going to do on the outside is we are going to scissor man this. We're going to swap the two assignments completely. And what this will do is this will allow for the guy that they untarget from an offensive point of view to be the guy guarding the screen. So now you're going to get a little bit better response against this, where if you go to throw it, that's going to be pick sixed to the crib the other direction. So this little trick is really, really good from a man perspective. Just a little crisscross. You man up outside on inside, inside on outside. That's what most players that run mid blitz are going to want. Now, the way that you guys can counter this from a zone perspective or a hybrid defensive perspective is that when somebody is going into this look, we can actually set up a hard flat on the outside as well. Now, this is going to be a little bit tougher because I don't really advise, unless you're 100% certain that this is coming, that you do this. I would probably advocate that you guys change the coverage overall on this side of the field to something that is zone and safe. You could always switch stick back off of this, because now when they go to this, they're going to end up on targeting the outside corner who's in the hard flat, and he's going to be there for that same interception pick six the other direction. So you have to just have a general understanding of, you know, here I am. I'm in a setup where I expect my slot corner to play this. And if he is getting blocked, you know exactly what they're doing and what the counter is. It's not a hard thing to do from either point of view. I know as a defensive player what's happening to me in the counter. And I also know from an offensive point of view, oh, if I untarget that guy and he's the guy making the play, and it's man-to-man, they're X-manning. Or if he's in a hard flat, I now know it's cover two hard flat. So once I see them stop it the first time and I know that that outside guy makes a play, if it's zone, I know it's some sort of hard flat. That's going to allow me to then make a more informed decision. Like, okay, well, if they're going to play this call, let's go ahead now instead and maybe run something that could potentially get into, you know, the seam. Maybe that's going to be a check into four verticals because, you know, obviously this guy's playing a hard flat. So maybe we snap this ball and you're thinking, oh yeah, let's just hit this bang seam route on the backside. So it's basically creating levels to your RPO game that makes your offense more simple and efficient. You don't have to have these crazy route combos that you see pro players run. You can keep this very efficient and present a chess match that keeps your decisions very, very easy and makes their decisions kind of hard unless they've watched a video like this, because they're not going to understand why the player that is supposed to play the screen is no longer playing the screen. The other thing that I kind of glossed over very quickly is that if your opponent is changing their overall coverage into something that is like cover two hard flattish, the cool thing about this is that once you see that, you could also just forego the overall untargeting trick. We can still block a hard flat. So you see right here that when I snap this ball, that vertical hook runs away, and I can still steal yardage that way. So if you still want to throw the screen, that is something you can do. You just skip the whole point of the on target. And then of course, if they are running the cross man setup as well, when you go to this type of screen, well, what's the thing that we do? Well, it's pretty simple. We're just going to forego the untargeting feature. So again, you can still throw screen passes. It's pretty simple stuff here to get this ball in your court, put the ball in their court, take the ball back. Like, it's literally just back and forth. You start with level 1. If they have level 1 defense, you move to level 2. If they have level 2 defense, you know you're playing a high level player, and then you just go back to running it the regular way. So this is going to make your RPO game so much easier. I really haven't talked about anything with like all of a sudden using keepers with your quarterback, or you know, adding in hot routable versions of RPOs, because there are other RPOs in certain formations where you might have a bubble, but you could go ahead and completely change overall what you're doing with that RPO and start to exploit individual defenders in the middle of the field. So you're going to really enjoy this tip in your offense no matter what playbook you run. I think Minnesota is the best RPO playbook in the game, so make sure you guys go check that out. I'll see you guys later with our next video upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab in. Good luck.